Hello and welcome to Luke Overthinks 7 Wonders Architects. Now, the first thing to say about this game is just how nicely it works in the box. There are lots of games where there's lots of dead space in the box. This one is really, really nice in that you have one of these boxes for each of the 7 wonders that are in the game, and then an 8 fatter box with all the rest of the components that are shared amongst the players. So this is the latest iteration in the series of 7 Wonders games. If you're not familiar with it, don't worry, because this game plays entirely independently of those games. If you are a fan of 7 Wonders and 7 Wonders Duel, then you might enjoy this, but equally it's a much simpler game than either of those two, so may or may not be your thing. The reason I bought it, having played all of the 3 7 Wonders games online on Board Game Arena, and I have played 7 Wonders in person a while back, but mostly I've been playing online recently. But the reason I bought this one is because I thought it would be on the level of a game that my wife would enjoy, and I was correct. It's rated 8+, but my 5-year-old can play it. The community rating on Board Game Geek is 6+, so I think it just depends on how familiar your kid is with board games as to whether they can play it. But that's not to say that it's only a game for kids. I really enjoy playing it as an adult. So if you're familiar with 7 Wonders, you will know that the aim of the game is to build one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. In the original game, that's slightly more abstract in that you're kind of building phases of the wonder by just slotting cards under your rectangular board. In the case of this, you're actually building a distinct wonder. So this one is the Pyramid of Giza. It actually looks like a pyramid. This one, the Lighthouse Alexandria, actually looks like a lighthouse, and so on and so forth. So there's that element to it. And there's also the element that each of the different wonders has a different power as you go along, whether that's to do with picking extra cards, whether that's picking extra progress tokens as you go, or whether, in the case of the pyramid, it's just scoring a lot more points than the other wonders. So let's talk about how it works. Inside your wonder box, you have a deck of cards and the 5 pieces of your wonder. And you start by placing your wonder scaffolding side up in front of you. And each of you has 5 stages, which are labelled 2 different resources, 2 of the same resource, 3 different resources, 3 of the same resource, and 4 different resources that you have to collect to build your wonder. You put your deck of cards on the left, face up, and your opponents sit in a circle around you, and you have access to your deck and the one on your right from that person. Obviously, if you're playing as a 2-player game, you have access to both the decks that are available. If you're playing with more than 2 players, up to 7, you only have access to those decks. And then there's an extra mystery deck that goes in the middle face down. There are also progress tokens. There's this cat, which allows you to see what's on this deck. And then there's battles to fight as well. All of these elements you'll be familiar with if you've played any of the other versions of 7 Wonders. And here they are all in this game in maybe slightly different forms. Let's, for the sake of demonstration, say that here's my opponent's deck. So on your turn, you will pick one of these 3 cards, either one of the face-up piles or from the middle, and you will play it in front of you. And I'm just going to go through the different types of cards now. So the first type of cards are resources. There are 5 kinds of resource. This is glass, this is papyrus, there are others. And then there's also coins, which are a wild card. Essentially, it can be any resource that you want them to be. You have victory point cards, which are very simply, you get the number of points on the card. If you pick one with the cat symbol on, you get the cat, which is worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. And while you have it in your possession, I can have a look at the top card of this deck before you choose it. You have army cards, so these ones are permanent. These ones with the horn are temporary, and when a certain number of temporary ones have been drawn, a battle is called, and you could basically compare how many red cards you have with the players on your right and on your left, and whoever wins scores points. And then you have green cards, which are science cards, and if you collect 2 with the same symbol or 3 with the 3 different symbols, you get to pick a progress token from a pile, either a face-up one or a mystery face-down one. And that adds extra powers like drawing extra cards, scoring extra points, adding extra bits to your army. So compared to the other 7 Wonders games, it's much lighter on strategy, given that you only have 3 basic options each turn as to which card to pick. And when you collect the requisite amount of resources to build a stage of your wonder, you have to build it. When you collect a requisite number of green cards, you have to turn them in to get your progress token. So if you like your games heavier, this is not for you. I would suggest getting hold of Seven Wonders or Seven Wonders Duel if you're interested in a Seven Wonders game. But if you're interested in a game that can be played by all the family, if you're interested in something a little bit lighter, if like me you have a spouse who isn't interested in heavy games but will play something like this with you, then this is definitely a great game to have. As I said, fits really nicely into the box. It's a great piece of design from that respect. And the fact that all the individual wonders are in their own boxes means that you don't have to get all the components out every time you want to play the game. So that's something that I really like about it. It's also available on Board Game Arena in the premium section, which is where I first encountered it and learned to play it and really, really enjoy it. And the theme is just nice. Of all the Seven Wonders games, this one I think looks the nicest, works the nicest. You actually have a wonder that looks like the wonder you're trying to build at the end of the game, rather than just being, oh, here's a rectangular thing that represents that wonder. So I really like that. I guess the only vaguely negative thing to say about it is that it probably is slightly more on the chancy side of things than I would like. There is definitely strategy to playing this game. Don't get me wrong, like what you choose does matter. For example, if you're choosing from the face-up decks, then you are knowingly exposing the next card for your opponent, who will get first dibs on it. Okay, so there's definitely strategy in that. So you might want to play for the face-down deck, but then the flip side of that is you don't know what you're going to get from the face-down deck. There is also, of course, strategy in what kind of card you choose to prioritize from the ones in front of you. All cards are not equal, and you have to kind of learn when to pick certain cards at which point in the game. So there is definitely strategy here that you can learn. It's not entirely down to chance. The other thing to say about it is that it's one of these games where the end is triggered by one person finishing their wonder, but finishing a wonder doesn't necessarily guarantee that you've won the game. It likely means that you have the most points from your wonder, but there are other ways of scoring points, like your victory point cards, how much you've won from battles, and the ones from the science cards. So there is that element of like figuring out, oh, if I go out now, have I won the game or not? And it's one of these games where you deliberately kind of save tallying up the points until the very end. Now, obviously, you can have a vague idea of like, oh, who's doing what, but it's not within. I think it would be against the spirit of the game to actually kind of sit down and keep a tally of who's scoring what. Now, I have to admit that when playing a turn-based game online, I often do rack up the points because I've got as much time as I want. And I do kind of figure out the points and then go, oh, maybe I shouldn't go out now. But often, actually, by the time you get to that point in the game, prolonging the end because you know you're probably going to lose gives your opponent much more time to score extra points as well. And so at that point, you're kind of lost anyway. So I'm going to thoroughly recommend the game to everybody. Obviously, caveats earlier in the video about what you actually like in terms of depth of strategy and heaviness and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to thoroughly recommend the game. I really enjoy playing it. It's lovely to play it with my daughter. It's lovely to play it with my wife. And I enjoy playing it online on Board Game Arena. So this one gets the thumbs up from me. And next time, I don't know what I'm going to be doing next time, but join me for another video. It may be board game related. It may be Doctor Who related. It may be that one of my podcasts finally starts to broadcast. But whatever, if you like any of those things, do stick around on the Luke OverThinks channel.